Welcome to Niners Talk with John, Tim, and Brian. Let's talk Niners.
And Will Kittle's wide open and down to the 45.
Sure, Fisher, let me ask you something. Okay, Coach, go ahead. How can 6 of you miss a play like that, huh?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Niners Talk. It's John, joined by my brother Tim, my brother from another mother, Brian. How you guys doing tonight?
What's up, everybody?
Hello. Doing
All right,
fine.
well, how are we feeling? Tim is coming direct to us from his fallout shelter in Lake Tahoe.
Look, I'm just saying that if crypto and AI are going to absolutely destroy the world, I am prepared. How about you guys? I'm just saying I am prepared.
I'm prepared as well. I'm going to go down with the ship.
Great. This
Brian,
is
how are you doing today? You got
positive tone we're starting the podcast off on.
I'm doing fine. You were talking about fallout shelters. I was thinking about Last of Us. Did you guys watch that on HBO Max this season?
I did not.
Oh, it just talks about an apocalypse. So I will cut it short if you haven't seen it.
Okay. Can we start talking other than something about the end of days? I'm in kind of in a negative mood now.
Speaking of apocalypse, so some news coming out of Tim's local area. The Washington Commanders have finalized their sale, and Dan Snyder is no longer the owner of the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, as we've said before, I do live in the Washington, D.C. area. Obviously, I'm a huge Niners fan, having been born and raised in Northern California. But I just, goodbye and good riddance to Mr. Snyder. I think you put him up there with people like Donald Sterling, Marge Schott. I just have never seen one of the more disgusting people on this planet. Dan, if you're listening and you want to sue me, I don't really have much to offer, but I doubt you're listening. You're probably in your yacht watching your IMAX movie by yourself. No, I've lived in DC since about 2005. I remember moving there. People were huge on Washington. Football Sundays were just enormous, and that just was steadily eroded away till the fan base is really a shell of itself. So hopefully that new ownership group is able to come in, because I do think DC is a great football town. But goodbye and good riddance to Mr. Snyder. Your sexual harassment lawsuits, you're basically running a team into the ground and alienating one of the best fan bases that the NFL had. That being said, let's get off this subject and talk about other stuff.
Yeah, so Niners are actually going to play a football game this weekend. We're going to talk today about the Niners playing the Raiders. So far, we've had one joint practice. And Brian, what have you heard from or seen from the joint practice that's happened today?
So when I've been reading on, what is it, NBC Sports Bay Area or KNBR, I mean, I guess they've gone on successfully. It's gone to plan. They've gone each other. I know that there's just been a lot of, probably today's kind of the camaraderie thing with whole like Brock Purdy, seeing Jimmy G. But I guess it's gone okay. I haven't heard of any injuries from today other than the breaking news, which you're probably going to break later. But other than that, I guess it's going okay.
Tim, have you heard or read anything that piqued your interest about today's joint practice?
Well, I think the major news was obviously the injury report that came out today with Ray McCloud. Found out he broke his wrist on Tuesday, falling to the ground. It is going to require surgery. So he's going to be out about 8 weeks. That is unfortunate. I know Niners fans like myself, we cringe anytime we see an injury update from social media. It's early enough in the season that the Niners can recover. They'll probably bring in a veteran or somebody will step up. But that's really the major thing. I think, from what I've heard, Kinlaw continues to be a highlight for the defensive line. And I just, a little, shout out to Jimmy G. I was always a Jimmy G fan. I always thought he held himself with such professionalism and class. And we saw that again today with him and hanging out with Brock Purdy. Shanahan made some comments. Jimmy G made some comments. It's great to see things like that. I wish him well with the Raiders.
Yeah, from what I was reading today and watching via the Twitterverse was that Hargrave had a really good practice. Kinlaw had another really good one. Brock had a pretty decent red zone. I think he threw 2 touchdowns, one to McCaffrey, one to Ty Davis Price. Trey got off to kind of a slow start, but had a really good 2-minute drill. But Jimmy G apparently looked pretty sharp. But I mean, he was going against a defense that he had to play against for 4 years.
I
So
I also heard that apparently the matchup to watch during these joint practices is Crosby against Trent Williams. I guess those guys have just been going toe to toe 9 days. So that would be a matchup I would love to be on the field for. But Crosby had some terrific things to say about Williams. He just said, going against that guy just makes me a better player.
yeah, it literally looks like those are 2 Titans going against each other. So and then there's another practice tomorrow. And then we have the game on Sunday, which will be our first time to watch. It's going to be here on 4 o'clock on the East Coast. And then for you West Coasters, it's going to be 1 o'clock. But so, Brian, any other training camp thoughts?
No, I mean, it's just good to see. I was just reminiscing about how the last game we went to, Niners Raiders, was at the same spot where this game on Sunday is going to be. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. I know
It-
there's
it-
a lot of people trying to make their roster on both squads, so you won't see the starters kind of in this matchup.
This game won't have quite the amount of tension that the one on New Year's Day 2023 had.
Absolutely.
No, I don't think it's going to be as tight. So, some other stuff from training camp over the last week. We've definitely seen how good Jake Moody can be. And the unofficial first depth chart came out. And I love how they use the or. It's Jake Moody or Zane Gonzalez. I'm like, there's no or. Like, let's get rid of the or. It's Jake Moody. And Jake Moody boomed a 60-yarder in practice, and somebody like Lombardi said it could have gone 66 at sea level. I think he's going to be one to watch.
Can I ask
Tim?
a question about kickers in general? I just have a question about kickers in general. Why is it that the 49ers, when they bring in backup kickers, because Robbie Gold got injured a couple of times, we bring in people whose name starts with things like Chase, and in this case, we have Zane. Why are our backup kickers always named unique names? Is there some sort of algorithm around this?
I don't know, but you might have a point because who was that kicker that you hated? He would always miss.
Are you talking about in the early 2000s?
Yes.
Well, that would be Jose Cortez. It wasn't a weird name. He just every now and then would, it's like, all right, this game will put the game away, and it would just like slice right over to the other side. I think it was something like we were playing the Chargers, and he had a chance to ice the game, and I think it's something to the effect of Tim might be calling on the 49er organization to see is there another country that Jose Cortez would like to live in at this point. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that. I didn't hate him. I just hated when he did things like,
Yeah. Oh, Jose, you're out there somewhere.
I hope he's doing well.
But anyway, on to the game. So what are we gonna? This is the first time. I mean, other than the little clips you see from practice, it's the first time we're gonna actually see these guys suit up and tackle to the ground. So, Brian, what are you looking for in this game? What are you going to be watching?
You're just going to want to see who's going to make the third string, who's going to make the squad. So, I mean, I know you're not, as I mentioned, you're not going to watch a lot of the people who are going to start. You may not even see the backups of the starters. You're just looking to see the people who are going to make the 53-man roster. So, I'll be honest, I'm not very familiar with a lot of the names who are trying to make the third string. So, I'm not even going to go there in terms of like names, but I think the only name that comes to mind is because Ray McLeod got hurt. That's probably going to move up Ronnie Bell in the depth chart because he probably is going to be the person, him or Willie Snead, I thinking, could be the persons who could take the kickoff returns and the punt returns. So this is definitely going to help him. And that's what I kind of see.
And Tim, what are you going to be looking at?
Yeah. Well, I was right there with Brian. I think a couple of things. I was hoping to see what Drake Jackson was going to show. I was hoping to see what Danny Gray was going to show, but it looks like Drake Jackson has a hamstring injury. I can't recall off the top of my head what Danny Gray. I was looking to see what those guys could do. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. So I'll be keeping an eye on Kinlaw and see what kind of reps he gets and what he can do. And yeah, obviously Brock Purdy is not going to play. I will be shocked if he plays at all. There's just no point. We're going to see what Trey Lance can do. It's a year after his injury. He's going to put on the pad. Apparently, he's still got some challenges throwing in the short game. We're going to see what Sam Darnold can do. And I think, like anything preseason, we get a chance to see a surprise. And a couple of years ago, John, you and I are watching the game, and we're like, who's 29? Hufanga. That guy seems to have just a
Mhm.
good nose for the ball. He was making plays. And so that's what I'm looking for in this game. Is anybody going to stand out? Is anybody going to surprise us where we jump onto our phones and say, who's that guy? So,
Yeah.
and otherwise, it's football. We haven't seen it since
Yeah.
the NFC Championship game. We're going to turn it on. Our jerseys will be on, and it's just good to have it back.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing is going to be for me will be, okay, who's going to get the starting nod this time? And my guess it'll be Trey Lance. How does he look? How many does he play the first quarter? Does he play more than that? Is he auditioning for potentially a trade? Because then you got Sam Darnold. How does he look? Is he looking like he's picking up the Niners offense? Will they flip flop next week with Sam then taking out the ones and then Trey coming in after that? So it's going to be interesting because obviously they're paying Sam Darnold. They still have Trey Lance on his rookie deal and Brock Purdy's number one. Given how many times we've had quarterbacks get hurt, they can keep all of them. Well, like any quarterback, they're going to have to throw the ball. And with the Ray McLeod injury, the Ronnie Bell is really one that I'm kind of watching. I was really hoping Danny Gray was going to play because he's such a burner. And I wasn't really super high on him. But I'm kind of wondering because I think I read that he's sore. Like, well, I'm sore too sometimes, but I can go out and run.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if he's got the ability for availability, as they say. So I'm going to be looking. I think I'm going to be really interested in Ronnie Bell and the connection into either Trey Lance or Sam Darnold, and which of the quarterbacks looks the part.
So I have a question for you guys. Is Shanahan going to run Trey Lance on any designed quarterback draws, quarterback runs, things like that? Do you see that happening?
No,
No, I do not see that happening at all.
I think we might see
I think
one, maybe two. I don't put it past Shanahan to say, hey, you know what, Trey, get it out of your system. Go in there, just take one hit and I can pull you out, or I won't call that play anymore. But I wouldn't be surprised if we did a little quarterback design run that Shanahan, I think, just employs just to give Trey maybe a little confidence.
Do you think that
I
run
think
would
you
be
might see
inside
a
or outside, Tim or John?
I don't, well, I hope not. I certainly hope not inside just because in the Seattle game week 2 last year, that's where
Yeah.
obviously he got hurt. So, but, see, maybe something like, we'll run a play action fake where Lance is running to his right and he's got the option to run or throw it into the flat and somebody can pick it up. So I see something like that. It's something like Shanahan telling Lance, unless it's like a mile open and you can run for 5-6 yards and run out of bounds, take it. If not, just throw the ball away.
I think you'll see trade with like a design rollout. I don't think
Yeah.
you'll see him run. I just think the risks are too big for him to get hurt and just not be available because
Yeah.
Lord knows we need the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Um,
So here's another question, John. So we know Purdy's got mobility.
Mhm.
We know he can run. We saw him do that last year. We know that Lance, one of the reasons they drafted him was they thought he had mobility to run. They certainly employed that the first couple of games. Can Sam Darnold run? That's a question. That's something I'll be looking for. See what his mobility's like.
Well, apparently he was running in practice today. I don't know if he was running for his life or he was actually running, but that was the general theme I think I read in The Athletic.
Huh.
Brian, anything else you're going to be looking for on off?
Let's see. I'm going to see. I know. I think Elijah Mitchell's hurt. So right. So I think DP
Yeah.
Davis Price is probably going to be going. So I'd love to see a little bit more of him. I know he's done pretty well in the preseason, and so I'd love to see him more. So I think that is probably something the offense is going to look at. Definitely. So, also with George Kittle getting hurt today, they're definitely going to look at more of the tight end. So George Kittle with an adductor injury, which I think is what is that? The groin area. You like to see probably Cameron Latu or was it Braden Willis kind of show up. So you're going to see a lot of targets in that area on Sunday.
I also I kind of wonder if the injuries that Shanahan has been. I mean, you just mentioned George Kittle. We certainly wouldn't probably see George Kittle if he was 100% healthy, but I do wonder if this was week 1, week 2, would we see Kittle out there? Because last year we did miss Kittle for the first couple of games. He had some. I forget what the exact injury was, but I do wonder if this was a must-win game. Would we see Kittle out there? My guess, probably yes. But this is going to be something we're going to play cautious. There's no reason to have him in there. But as Brian said, it gives us a chance to see the other tight ends and see what they can do.
Yeah, I'm going to be really interested. Plus, the emphasis, especially with McCaffrey, although I doubt he'll play, on the quarterback running back connection via pass. And that goes with Ty Davis Price and with Jordan Mason and some of the other, potential undrafted guys, running backs as well. So that's going to be, I think, a pretty interesting connection from either Sam Darnold or Trey Lance. And then last but not least on offense is the offensive line. You won't see, I don't think, a lot of the starters. Certainly not Trent Williams. But, is Colton McKivitz going to take a couple snaps in there and keep getting sharp? They're going to put out their backup center. And how did they gel against the Raiders front? Especially keeping, giving a little bit of time to both Darnold and Lance, and then opening up running lanes. So I'll be interested to see how they perform as well. So, any other thoughts on the offense? Because then we'll just move on to the big D.
Move on to D.
Move on to the D.
Okay. Well, obviously the D, I think, starts with the new safety. We've heard really good things coming out of camp. He's had a couple interceptions. He's looked the part. But now we have to get to see how he performs during a game. So I'm going to be watching him. And again, like Tim said, with Hufanga when he came in, okay, that's the guy who's going out to whack people.
John, who are you going to be watching?
Our new safety, Brown.
Oh, okay, thank you. I heard the safety.
Okay.
I'm like, we have several safeties. Just need you to be specific. I'm watching that guy. I'm watching that
guy.
Yeah.
So, Brian, who are you going to watch on D this weekend?
Samuel Womack. He's got some kind reviews, kind of what's happening during the offseason. So I love to see him, to see what he can do. I know he's our backup corner, but our forgotten man, Ambry Thomas, who got the pick in the 21 season.
Yeah.
I want to see him back. I listened to him on the Niners Talk podcast with Matt Mayoko. He had some words about why he kind of fell off last year. He got hurt. He wasn't in shape, but now he's back. So he probably took his rookie year for granted. He thought he was going to start in his second year. He got passed, definitely, in the second year. So I want him. He's his third year now. I want to see him shine. And he's proven it in his rookie year. I want to see him back in his third year.
Yeah, Brian, I got to say, you stole the guy I was just about to talk about, would be Ambry Thomas. Actually, in 2021, he was struggling at the first part of the year, and then he came on strong at the end of the year. You mentioned the interception against the Rams in the last game of the season, clinching the Niners playoff spot. And we thought we'd see a lot of growth from him the following year. Obviously, that did not happen. So I'll be keeping an eye on Ambry myself. We've seen flashes of what he can do. Let's see if he can make it consistent.
Okay. So the other one will be really interesting is what linebackers go out. So you've got Fred, who I won't be doing anything. Dre's got a hamstring.
Yep.
But then who's going to be the Mike linebacker? Who's the strong side? Who's going to be the weak side? And this is going to be a group where I think you may see some separation between all of the folks that are out there. You might see Oren Burks looking really good. And some of the other guys are coming on as well. So that's a group I'm actually kind of going to be watching. And then of course there's a guy who we've been talking about quite a bit is Javon Kinlaw. I'm really excited to watch him play. I think he can, if he's in the Bravo group in the beginning of the season. I remember last year in the preseason, he was against the Texans and he looked great.
Yeah.
And I just kind of hope we see that version of Javon Kinlaw for this game.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you, John. I think I do wonder if they're going to have Kinlaw play given his injury history. I do see him maybe going out there for a couple of series, but I think they're going to be keeping him on a play count like they did last year. Certainly would love to see him obviously excelled. I think he could be more of a role player rather than a full-time starter. Now that they brought in obviously the big free agent splash, Hargrove, if he can come in on not an every down player, I think he could definitely be effective. But here's another thing I'm going to be looking for in this game, because we talk about who are we looking for from this guy, who are we looking for that guy, and it's all positive. But how are these guys going to handle adversity, particularly the young guys coming in? If you get beat for a touchdown, which is going to happen, you make a dumb penalty, which is going to happen. Can you shake it off, and can you come back and continue to and play at a high level? That's what we're going to be looking for. I mean, we also have to remember that this is preseason and these games don't count. And I remember that a couple of years ago, I think I used this example before, when Jimmy G came in 2019 and he was against the Broncos. He was back from his injury and he didn't have a good game, and Twitter blows up. That's it, Jimmy G. Season's over. And what happens? 49ers go to the season.
He's done.
So I think we have to remember that in a month's time, I seriously doubt the Raiders game back in August. That really showcased what.
Yeah. I just remember last year, Tim and I were in Montana and we were watching the game, the first game. Like, now it feels like summertime, like late summertime. We got a preseason game on. We got some cheese and crackers out.
Maybe a couple cocktails.
Drinks.
Wait.
Yeah. So
is this a family-oriented podcast or is this 21 and over? Sorry.
Fuck no, man. It's explicit.
This is explicit.
Answer, my question has been answered.
So on another note, I'm actually kind of excited about special teams. It's really weird because we've heard so much about Jake Moody, and I've obviously talked a lot about him, but we haven't actually seen him kick. So I'm really excited to watch Jake Moody's kickoffs to see what kind of returns. And it's a little bit hard, obviously, to gauge height from the television, but you can certainly gauge where he puts it and how well does he kick it out of the end zone. But then it's like, okay, well, now you're going to kick in real games. And maybe they trot him out to do like a 55-yarder and see how he does there. So I'm really excited to see him. I mean, Dane Gonzalez, I'm like,
I think what Shanahan would love, sorry, Brian, I think what Shanahan would love is that if you get it to a point where it's like 4 seconds left in a half or the quarter, and the Niners are on like their own 45, and he just says, all right, Jake, go out there and see how far you the thing.
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And I cut you off, Brian. Go ahead.
No, I've heard really great things about Moody. You pick a guy in the third round, right? And he's pick 100 or something like that. So of course you're going to keep him on the roster. So, but I've heard he's done good things. Obviously, I think money wise, it makes sense to get this guy over Robbie Gould, but I heard he hasn't missed in the preseason or in practices and stuff. So I guess he's doing a good thing, and he's got a really strong leg. So we'll see what happens.
We do know he hasn't missed in preseason yet.
Yeah.
Because there hasn't been one. But Tim.
He hasn't missed in practice from what I've heard.
Oh, there we go.
I do have to, John, if I was Kyle Shanahan, I would pull a John Madden trick out of my playbook. I would say to Jake Moody, all right, if you 55-yard field goal, practice is over. This is what John Madden used to do with his kicker. And he had guys like John Matuzak, Otis Sistrong, and probably other people that I frankly would never want to be on the bad side of. And they would just stare at him like, if you miss this, we are going to seriously kill you. So I don't know. I think maybe Shanahan, you get Trent Williams, you get a few guys, just scare the daylights out of him, see what his confidence level does.
Well, they are in Vegas. So you could almost say, okay, Friday, like the last part of Friday is like, hey, if Jake hits this, you guys don't have curfew. I'll see you sometime on Saturday. If he misses, you guys are pulling it at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Anyway,
like pressure.
So we are at the time of year where hope springs eternal, and nowhere is there people that are more hopeful than people who are ready to draft for fantasy football.
Yes.
I know that I'm in Brian's league. I do play. It has colored the way I watch the game a bit, but not as much anymore. Because I'm able to okay, it's not daily fantasy, there's no money really on the line. But who are we looking at on the Niners who are going to be good fantasy picks this year? Brian, who are you looking at? Since Tim doesn't play fantasy, we can just go right to Brian.
I'm out of this conversation.
Okay. No, I mean, Tim, you just got to look at stats. Whoever's going to put up the most stats. But before we get into that, I just want to say, John, we had a weird end to last season in the league we're in. So, Tim, you're going to have a kick out of this.
I remember. I remember it.
We were playing each other, me and John, in the championship game, and our scores tied for the championship game. They went 3-0 to 103.30. So we tied, which you would never see in a championship game ever. So John and I are splitting our league. But in any case, what am I looking at? So obviously, fantasy, you're looking at persons who score. So I think the person who you're looking at, who I would draft first over anybody, would be a running back. So that would involve Christian McCaffrey. So Christian McCaffrey, he can catch, he can run, he can throw for the occasional touchdown. But you're looking at probably, I'm guessing, maybe because you have so many weapons, maybe 800 yards rushing, maybe 700 yards passing. I know that in the Niners offensive scheme
or receiving,
receiving. Excuse me. I know in the Niners scheme they have so many weapons, so you got to pass down. But I do think Christian McCaffrey he's good for probably about 20 points a game if he can give 75 to 100 yards rushing, 50 to 75 yards. And then maybe an occasional throw here or there, but you're looking at least 15 to 20 points per game. My kind of thought. Ayuk is another guy, John, who I'm kind of looking. He's obviously a 100-yard guy every game, and he could probably score a touchdown every game. So those are two guys I'm probably highly looking at in my fantasy football. So I don't know, John, who are you thinking maybe from your side?
There is a small-ish wide receiver named Deebo Samuel.
That guy.
So
who's he again?
Yeah. So he could be another one because it's an odd year. So Deebo shines in the odd years. The other Kittle, I always thought from a fantasy perspective that he was always overvalued. He never really scores as many touchdowns as you think he's going to, although last year he was quite good towards the end. The 49ers defense could be interesting because they get a lot of potential pick sixes, which has a lot of points involved. And then if you're playing a league where they have kickers who can hit from far distances, Jake Moody might be one that you don't draft, but you pick up in the free agent round. So you're holding on to running backs, but you're able to get Moody off the bench. So those are going to be interesting. I don't think Purdy's going to be one that is going to probably shine from a fantasy point of view because so much of the Niners offense is run based.
Yeah.
But, you never know. He could be one you pick up just when you're looking at matchups of bad pass defense. When he's playing the Cardinals, you got to shove somebody in there other than your other guy. So, but yeah, I think you're right. Christian and Brandon and Debo could be some big time fantasy point getters for the Niners this year.
I do think Brock Purdy is probably a guy, if you see him available, maybe in your last round or your second to last round, just pick him up. He's always good as a backup quarterback. He's definitely not going to shine like your Aaron Rodgers or maybe like a Justin Herbert or any of those other guys, but he's probably a good, solid backup for your bench. So, as you're right, John.
Well, now that the fantasy part is, we have to get back to reality.
Yes.
And that goes to Brian and his weekly trivia question for Tim and I.
Okay. All right. So August 7th was Dwight Clark Day, 8/7. So Dwight Clark passed in June of 2018. So I'm going to ask you guys, where is he buried and why is his location where he's buried significant? That's question number one.
Okay. I think he is actually buried in the state of Montana. If memory serves, he had a ranch up there, and Eddie D also has a ranch up there. And the goalposts from Candlestick from the final game, Eddie D managed to get a hold of. I believe he's buried up there. That's my answer.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Tim on that one.
Okay. All right.
Next.
Next. Okay. As we talked about here, the Niners are playing the Raiders this Sunday on August 13th. So the Niners have played 8 regular season games against the Raiders. I'm going to ask you guys, who owns the win-loss record between those two teams and who were the first head coaches in the matchup in 1970?
All right. So in terms of the overall head-to-head matchup, I think the Raiders have it. And the 1970 matchup, that was actually played at the Oakland Coliseum. The 49ers were coached by Dick Nolan. 49ers were going for their very first Western Division title. And let's see, 1970, I want to say Madden, but I don't think that's it. I'm going to say, I think it was John Roche. I may be mispronouncing that.
So I'm going to go with the Raiders. With the Niners own it 8-7. And the coaches, I'm going to go with Dick Nolan and Tom Flores.
Okay.
I can tell you right now, you're wrong.
All right, moving on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on. Question number 3. Jim Plunkett is the most significant quarterback to play for both the Niners and the Raiders. Name one other quarterback to play for both teams. That's part 1 of this question.
All right.
So think of a quarterback that's played for both Niners and the Raiders. And then number 2, I'm going to read you some names. These are obviously, that they played for both the Niners and the Raiders. I want you to name maybe possibly the second best person who's played in that role. So, Ronnie Lott, who is the other person who's just probably not as good as Ronnie to play
Roger Craig.
Niners or Raiders.
Roger Craig.
Roger Craig
Yes.
Wait, no, Ronnie Lott from
All
a
right,
safety
well,
position, Roger Craig from a running back position, and Jerry Rice from a wide receiver position.
Oh, sorry, I answered too fast. I
Yeah.
get so excited.
well, to answer the first one, I'm going to go with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, Jimmy
That's
Garoppolo.
yes. Any other come to
Um,
mind who's played for both? Well, he hasn't played.
Well,
He hasn't played a game. Yeah.
he hasn't played a regular season game, yes, but obviously Jim Plunkett played for both teams, so
Okay.
I,
All right.
I don't recall Ken Stabler playing for the Niners. That much I'm certain. He might have suited
All
up
right.
for the Niners in kind of a bad night out one time, and he drove the Candlestick instead of the Oakland Coliseum the next morning. But that's the only reason I could think Ken Stabler would ever suit up for the 49ers.
yeah.
All right. All right.
This is a good
Second part of the question: who are the backups who had to play
Mhm.
their position? Ronnie Lott, Roger Craig, and Jerry Rice. So safety, running back, wide receiver. Who is another person who's
Running
done
back.
those roles? But yep, running back, wide receiver, or safety.
Wait, so I'm sorry. So the question is who has played for both the 49ers and the
Oh,
Raiders?
yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Crabtree was a wide receiver for both teams.
Good
There
one,
you
John.
go. There
Yeah.
you go. That's a good one. Running back.
Tim.
Running back. Well, I already named Roger Craig. There's another you're saying.
Not
Charlie
going for the yeah.
Oh, Charlie Garner.
There you go. Okay.
Okay, and then a safety.
And then a safety. And we already said Ronnie Lott, correct?
Yes.
All right, safety. Let me think. Nothing comes to mind up top. I mean, I could think here for a while, but I think our listeners would just be dead air.
Although I will say there's one position that Brian left out that I just thought of, and that's linebacker, and it's Navarro Bowman.
Yes, that's true. I could have named that one.
Oh, good one. Good one, John.
All right. Oh, I'll
That's good.
try.
One more question. This one's probably
Hmm?
for Tim. Okay, so the AFL NFL merger, 1970. That's when the Niners first played the Raiders. Name 3 teams from the NFL, the NFC, that moved to the AFL or the AFC at that time. So there were 3 pre-existing teams that moved from the NFL to the AFL.
Should I answer?
Go ahead.
All right. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, both the Baltimore Colts, and the Cleveland Browns.
Okay. We'll answer them in a bit.
All right.
John, you got anything you want to say
So,
about that one?
No, Tim knows that one. I have no idea. I was thinking the San Diego Superchargers. I'm like, oh, they're in the AFC.
Man.
So getting back to the Tim, what is some good shit you want to see coming out of this game?
I do not want to see injuries, period. That's all. That is all.
Anything else? Like a competent offense?
I don't want to see. I know these guys
Okay.
can play. These guys are professionals. It's a preseason game. As far as I'm concerned, wrap the team in bubble tape and let's get ready for Pittsburgh in week 1.
Brian, what do you want to see good shit wise coming out of Las Vegas?
I mean, I want to see some of these position players shine. So I want to see a little bit of Sam Womack. I want to see a little bit of Ambry Thomas. Obviously, I don't want them to get hurt in any way whatsoever. Yeah, that's about it. Just want to see some of these players who we've kind of talked about in this podcast kind of show up. And I know we're rooting for them, but we want to see them succeed. So that's what I want to see, John.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I want to see some the rookies separate a little bit from each other. Of who's the guy who kind of stands out on film? We saw it with Hufanga, who saw it with Womack last year. I want to see a competent offense, either from Trey Lance or from Sam Darnold, so that I know if something bad does happen, or minor to a quarterback, that it's in capable hands. So those are the kind of things that I kind of want to watch for on Sunday. And I think we all agree for the bad shit is we don't want to see anybody get hurt. We just want them to play, get out safely, and get closer to week 1. So on that note, Brian, you want to give us the answers to these questions?
Absolutely. So number 1, Yes. Dwight Clark, Tim, you correctly called it, is buried in Whitefish, Montana on Eddie DeBartolo Jr.'s ranch with the goalpost where he scored that touchdown, when he scored that touchdown. So that is there.
So I was actually reading about this earlier this week, and he is actually buried where he would have caught the catch if it had been there, according to where the goalposts are. And the other fun fact is, do you know who else is buried there?
No. Who?
You know,
Freddie Solomon.
get out of
How
town.
about that?
Yeah.
God rest.
That is
I
did not know he
good
passed.
Niner trivia.
And do you know where
Yeah,
Freddie
he had
Solomon is buried?
On the goal
He's
line?
buried on
On
the
the
other
other
side
side?
in the slot. Yeah.
I think
So-
if memory serves, Freddie Solomon had some kidney problems. I think he was either waiting for a transplant or something happened. But yeah, I think it was a few years ago that he passed.
Ah, okay. All right. Moving on to number 2. Overall, the record, John, you called it 8-7. Niners have it over the Raiders. They've won the last few.
Go,
the Raiders
John.
had it for a while. But
Yeah.
So 8-7. 8-7 Niners. Okay, head coaches, Dick Nolan. Tim, you got that right. John Madden was the coach of the Raiders.
No kidding. Okay. I couldn't, yeah. I guess it was Madden because he did come in right after, I think, Super Bowl II, Super Bowl III.
Let's see, quarterbacks to play for both. Yes, Jimmy G is the new guy. Don't forget Jeff Garcia, our guy from the early 2000s.
I was
Ah.
actually thinking Garcia, and I should have said it.
Yeah. Jeff Garcia. Didn't he? He wasn't the guy who led them to the Super Bowl. Who was that? Rich. Gosh, why is
Rich
his name?
Gannon.
Rich Gannon. So he played for after Rich Gannon, right? I remember that. So, and then another guy from Notre Dame. Who is it?
Rick Meyer.
Rick. There you go. Okay. So in terms of the other players, those significant players, so safety, running back, and wide receiver, I was thinking Charlie Gardner. Another guy is Randy Moss. Randy Moss, the wide receiver.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah.
And then safety, I don't know. I always picture him in a white jersey, but it's Rod Woodson. He played for both Niners and
Oh,
Raiders.
yeah. That's correct.
Yep.
That's correct.
Okay. And then number 4. Nope. Go on, Tim.
I was going to say, Brian, I have to compliment you on some of these questions. You are really digging deep into the Niners hit trivia history on some of these questions.
I'm trying to be significant for the week. So whatever's going on for the week, we're playing the Raiders this week.
It's good.
you know,
Keep them
there you go.
coming. Keep them coming.
We're playing who we play. Wait, I'll finish this last question and then we'll jump to next week. So AFL NFL merger 1970. Tim, you hit it nail on the head. It is the Baltimore Colts, the Cleveland Browns, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, man, you knew that from the top of your head. Great job.
Because I don't get out a lot, Brian. We've talked about this before.
Okay, so
San
next
Diego Superchargers.
You just wanted to
who
sing
we
that,
play?
didn't you?
Yes.
who are we playing next week? Are we playing the Broncos next week or the
The Los Angeles Superchargers.
There you go. Okay, I'm gonna have to think of
The
something
Los
up that alley.
Yeah. It doesn't have the right ring. It doesn't have the same ring.
Does it?
All right.
So, anyway,
one
no,
question.
we are playing the Broncos next week.
Okay. What team did we beat in Super Bowl? Oh, I can't remember now. 22, 23. I can't remember anymore. 55 to 10.
23. No, that was not 23. That was 24. 55-10 was against the Denver Broncos.
There you go. Okay. It'll
Joe
be
threw
something up that alley.
5 touchdown passes. He threw for 297 yards. Would you like me to go through every touchdown?
Oh,
maybe next week.
Gee.
It's
Was there
also
another
a great,
question, Brian?
it's also a great thing to watch on YouTube every now and again when you're feeling down.
Okay, so I got the Chargers the following week. I'll have something lined up that alley, Tim, for
All
you
right.
too.
Thank you.
It's the Broncos. So last but not least, we got to pay the bills, which always brings us to our final segment, which is one of my favorites, which is shit we brought on Amazon this week. So, Brian, I'll start with you. What'd you buy on Amazon this week?
Nothing. But
Again?
I did buy my son something for his birthday that's coming up. He wants to be ironic. I bought him some, I don't know if Nike Air Monarchs. Are you familiar with shoe?
Mm.
It looks
No.
like an old man shoe. So
So
It looks-
for
it
gift
looks-
ideas for my brother, I can pick these up.
yes,
You're hilarious.
I know.
they look like just some white sneakers with probably an old Nike logo on it, probably from the 80s or 90s. And you know, I got it from my kid. It's sitting in my closet. I'm going to give it to him for his birthday coming up in a few weeks. So that's what I bought
Awesome.
this week.
Nice.
Okay.
Tim?
Like Brian, I did not purchase a lot on Amazon. I did purchase one thing, and that was a pair of brand new running shoes. So already got about 35 miles on those. So that was me.
Oh, Tim, you got to say
Yes.
which ones, what brand?
I got Brooks Beast. I'm not
Good job.
saying I'm not saying I'm a beast. I'm saying this is what the shoes are called. It doesn't make me a beast, but they do the job. They don't cause any blisters, and I run okay in them.
Do they leave paw prints?
Ah.
That would be awesome. What kind of animals running around here?
Not that I can tell, but I am in Lake Tahoe, so maybe people are seeing, we have a lot of bear sightings. Nope, it's just the Brooks Beast.
That would be awesome. For me, it was a weird week. I ran out of golf balls because I sometimes hit them into the woods. So I bought some Callaway soft, low spin balls with triple track. I bought a dozen of those. And then sometimes it's one of those things like, did we really buy this on Amazon? We bought coffee filters. I was just like, why can't I just get my lazy butt out of the chair and get in the car and just drive and get coffee filters?
Because
coffee
Giant is 5 minutes away.
Yeah.
So
Except that Amazon took 2 days to deliver the coffee filters.
So John, I've switched my coffee filters to those gold plated filters. Have you seen those? Those like
Yeah.
there's you can wash them all the time, but I don't know. I find them so I don't run them out. They're always there. And
We take our coffee filters and we put them in the compost because coffee is actually high in nitrogen. So it actually is really good for plants. So
there you go.
ours just goes into the backyard at some point.
Understood.
So now I know we don't do game predictions because it would be like the super fans like, 49ers, 208, Raiders 3. So, but we're looking forward to the game, and we'll be back next week with thoughts on the Raiders game and then further thoughts on us playing the Broncos. But for now, all I can say to everyone out there, faithful Niners Nation, Niners Talk fans, go Niners.
Go Niners.
Thanks for listening to Niners Talk. Stay faithful.